3 injured as multiple-story building collapses in Lagos. Appeal court sacks Dino Melaye, orders fresh election. Iranian oil tanker struck by missiles in the Red Sea. And later, sport. Nigerian teams crash out of Lagos Open.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatubi. There has been another building collapse in Lagos. Director General of the State Emergency Management has confirmed the 3-story building at Shark Squad on Lekki Expressway crumbled last night. Okeosanyitolu confirmed 3 persons who sustained injuries were rescued. The Lasema boss said they were and that the Lagos State Building Control Agency, as well as the Ministry of Solid Material Testing Agency and Physical Planning, have been informed for further investigation. The Court of Appeal has agreed with the judgment of an election tribunal which nullified the election of Kogi West Senator Dino Melaye. The Appellate Court has ordered the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to conduct fresh election in the senatorial districts. Melaye's closest rival, Smart Adeyemi of the APC, had challenged his victory at the tribunal. 3 appeals were filed by the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and its candidate, Melaye, asking the Appellate Court to set aside the majority decision of the tribunal, which voided the election. The party claimed the tribunal failed to evaluate the testimonies of its witnesses, while no reference was made to all the documentary evidence it supplied before the tribunal came to what it called a wrong conclusion of overvoting, even when the petitioner did not tender a voter's register. The Lagos State Assembly has threatened to order the arrest of former Governor Akinwumi Ambode if he fails to appear before it. House Speaker Mudashiru Obasa announced this after the presentation of a plenary report by the ad hoc committee set up by the House to investigate the 820 buses purchased while Ambode was in office. Obasa says Ambode and some former government officials had refused to appear before the ad hoc committee. They include former commissioners for finance, economic planning, justice and attorney general, and permanent secretary, economic planning. The House had set up the committee to investigate the purchase of the buses and the Oshodi interchange projects. The committee reported that when it demanded for the transaction vouchers for the buses, the only response it received from the State Accountant General was that she relied on the governor's approval. People living with albinism have appealed to the federal government for full implementation of national eye policy to improve access to eye health services in the country. Albino Foundation's head of media and communication made the appeal during a news conference as part of activities commemorating this year's World Sight Day in Abuja. World Sight Day is observed annually on the 2nd Thursday of October. It is a global event to draw attention to causes of blindness and vision impairment, as well as raise awareness on ways to avoid the disease. The Foundation's media head also appealed to the federal government to improve eye health services and medical facilities across the country to encourage persons with albinism to attend schools. There has been an exponential growth in electrical and electronic equipment production and consumption in the last 2 decades, with global e-waste projected to hit 50 million tons next year. Technology firms would have to be pressured to make products more repairable. Kelechi Emekalam reports.
27-year-old inventor Zhang Bot and his team sorting out what many would describe as trash. But for Zhang, this is treasure. His love for science and technology stemmed from his childhood days, and Zhang is driven to contribute his own quota to locally made products. And one of his successful innovations is his power bank.
Most of the products we see in the market We see made in Japan, made in different countries, but you hardly see made in Nigeria. So that kept me wondering that I have to do something, because change starts with an individual. So I want to see that change, and which has to start from me.
Zhang has got a diploma in computer application, but is mostly self-taught, relying mainly on online research. Every single component used for his innovation is sourced from electronic waste. It's his main consideration for ensuring a safe environment.
What we are experiencing today is the global warming. And what is responsible for the global warming? Electronic waste is contributing towards the global warming by mismanaging the electronic waste, by burning it through incinerating. So once this electronic waste is harnessed and recycled in a proper way, it will save the environment from global warming.
Zhang's hard work and discipline have earned him several awards, including the federal government's National Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise Award. Among his other innovations are the foot mouse, made specifically for physically challenged persons. Zhang continues to push the boundaries of innovation in Nigeria. He's currently working on other interesting technologies like the automatic candlelight quencher and the sound filter. He hopes to push his products into the African market soon.
Coming up, African stories. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed wins Nobel Peace Prize. And later, international news. Conflicts in the Gulf as Iranian oil tanker hit by rockets in the Red Sea.
You are watching ANN.
This used to be me. But that was before I got the perfect bag. It's handy and easy to use. All I need in one compact space, just like my MTN Extra Value plan. I used to get one plan for my calls and then try to remember which data plan worked for me. Roaming was a totally different ballgame. Not anymore. I've got the MTN Extra Value all-in-one plan. If you're a data buff like me, you get extra data with some talk time. And if you like to make calls, you get extra talk time with some data. And when I'm abroad, I automatically browse, chat, and call right on the same plan. MTN Extra Value was made just for me.
More of data or calls, whichever one you prefer. MTN Extra Value is made just for you.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to African stories. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has won the 2019 Nobel Peace Prize on Friday for his peacemaking effort with Eritrea. Ethiopia and Eritrea were longtime enemies. They fought a border war from 1998 to 2000, but restored relations in July last year after years of hostility. The money prize for the award is about $1 million. The Prime Minister will be presented with the award in December. Abiy is the 12th winner from Africa to be awarded the prize. Last year, it was won by medical doctor Denis Mukwege from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Other African past winners include Nelson Mandela, F.W. de Klerk, who is the South African president that freed Mandela from prison, Egypt's former president Anwar al-Sadat, UN late former General Secretary Kofi Annan, and Liberia's former president Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. The Nobel Peace Prize is one of the 5 Nobel Prizes established in 1895 under the instructions in the will of Swedish industrialist Alfred Nobel. The moderate Islamic Ennahda has won Tunisia's parliamentary elections and now has to build a governing coalition. It will be the largest party in Tunisia's new parliament. Adnan Chawochi reports.
The announcement was made after completion of vote counting in the 33 constituencies, an examination of reports on irregularities registered during the ballot day.
إن مجلس الهيئة العليا المستقلة للانتخابات
The Council of the Election Authority reviewed the impacts of violations on the election process, particularly the distribution of seats in Parliament in accordance with the regulations of Article 143 of the election law, which allows the cancellation, even partially, of lists.
Many African, European and Tunisian observation missions underscored that the election process in Tunisia, which has been closely monitored over the past few weeks, was well administered.
The whole parliamentary election process was transparent. However, the election law should be revised to control political advertising. The list of registered voters should also be made available to the civil society.
217 MPs from 9 parties as well as independents who form the parliament will have 2 months to agree on the formation of a new government. Analysts say the main ruling parties could face deadlock, as in 2011 and 2014, the winning Ennahda party needs to form a coalition to form a government.
For weeks, all parties have campaigned against each other. Now they have to sit at the negotiating table to form the government. Many concessions will be made and new alliances will emerge. Now all the slogans of the campaigns will disappear in favor of a more resilient talk. All scenarios are possible.
Another Islamic movement needs the support of the secular Al-Tayyar party with 22 seats, the Conservative Dignity Coalition with 21 MPs, as well as the backing of 14 MPs from the Premier's Tahya Tunis party, in order to reach a majority of 109 MPs who will vote in favor of the new government. Following the official announcement of the preliminary results by the election authority, Tunisia's parliament looks deeply fractured. Therefore, the coming period of government formation will likely prove hard and long.
The World Health Organization says there is progress in containing the Ebola outbreak in the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo. It also cautions there is still some ways to go before total eradication. WHO also says there are now a little more 3,000 cases in the outbreak, with more than 2,000 deaths. WHO Executive Director of Health Emergencies, Marco Rion, has expressed optimism that aid workers are getting control of the Ebola outbreak in the country. He says the outbreak is not over yet and that it is unpredictable where it will go next. Rion says the virus has come full circle. He says deep insecurity, reticence among the population, distrust and many other factors are making the situation very dangerous. He said despite all odds, significant progress is being made. The story of Zimbabwe's economic turmoil is no longer news, but the country sadly has continued its spiral into its worst economic crisis in more than a decade. One Harare resident describes the situation as a nightmare. Hyperinflation is eating up the country's economy that is fast becoming extremely difficult for the average citizen to cope. International Monetary Fund figures place Zimbabwe as the world's second highest inflation after Venezuela. The Southern African nation has been enduring this trend for a decade now. But residents say it is getting worse and coping has become both creative and desperate. Zimbabwe's economy has been on a downward trend for more than a year now. Many citizens are losing hope. The late President Robert Mugabe's successor and former deputy, President Emmerson Mnangagwa, will deliver on his promises of prosperity. Harare economist John Robertson says people should brace for worse. He said the real causes include the government spending beyond its means. Zimbabwe's President Mnangagwa has appealed for more time to turn around the economy, in which the price of electricity has jumped an alarming 320% on Wednesday.
When we return, international news. Conflicts in the Gulf as Iranian oil tanker hit by rockets in the Red Sea. And later, sport. Nigerian teams dislodged from Lagos Open.
You are watching ANN.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. On the foreign scene, an Iranian oil tanker in the Red Sea has been hit by 2 suspected rockets on Friday off the coast of Saudi Arabia. This has raised fears of further escalation in the already volatile Gulf region. The National Iranian Tanker Company says in a statement the hull of the ship sustained 2 separate explosions about 60 miles off the Saudi port city of Jeddah. It said the blasts were probably caused by missile strikes. The news has caused oil prices to spike 2%. The state-owned company said reports of fire on the ship are untrue. It said the ship is completely stable. Leaking oil was stopped, but it restarted once the vessel began moving again. There was no immediate acknowledgement from Saudi Arabia about the blast. Russia's foreign ministry said it was too early to assign blame for the explosions. U.S. President Donald Trump and Democrats in the House of Representatives are in a constitutional standoff over impeachment. The White House is refusing to furnish witnesses and documents demanded by Democrats for the inquiry into Trump's phone conversation with the president of Ukraine. The clash is raising fundamental questions about the power of the presidency, the balance of power under the U.S. Constitution, and the state of American democracy. Meanwhile, 2 associates of President Donald Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, have been arrested on federal charges of making hundreds of thousands of dollars in illegal contributions to Republican campaigns, including a pro-Trump Super Political Action Committee. The 2 Florida-based businessmen were being sought by House of Representatives impeachment investigators at the time of their arrest. They allegedly lobbied for the ouster of a former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine last year. Lev Parnas, a Ukrainian-born U.S. citizen, and Igor Fruman, a Belarus-born U.S. citizen, were arrested by the FBI at an airport on the outskirts of Washington, D.C. late on Wednesday as they prepared to leave the U.S. They appeared in federal court in Alexandria, Virginia, Thursday afternoon. It's now only a few days before the UK leaves the European Union, and there are concerns about what that would do to London's status as a global financial centre. Investors are worried about the impact Brexit would have on the UK economy. Juliet Mann reports from London.
Flying the flag for British business. This is how some commuters and tourists weave their way from the riverbanks into the City of London and the buzz of banking and investment firms. Home to some of the world's top companies, London has been a hive of business ever since the Romans settled here for easy transport and trade along the River Thames.
London is such a historic central business area that there are historic trade agreements and people will still want to continue to trade with us. It's an iconic city where people want to live and work.
But the uncharted waters of Brexit have affected the ebb and flow of investment in and out of London. Think tank New Financial says 275 big financial firms have moved some activities or people to other parts of the European Union or opened legal entities there. A poll from financial advisors De Veer Group says 6 out of 10 investors are now actively seeking to move assets out of Britain. And consultants EY estimate about $1 trillion worth has already gone since the UK referendum decision to leave the EU. Consider too that the number of initial public offerings in London fell 23% in 2018 compared with 2017. The Frankfurt Stock Exchange, meanwhile, had one of its best years. But the Central Bank of Ireland says London's financial district will stay intact regardless of Brexit. Noting its central time zone and easy regulatory scene, the London Chamber of Commerce is on board with that.
I don't see an exodus. Well, there's no doubt that every sensible company is doing the right thing in looking at what the options are. When you say they're moving out, very, very few of them are moving out lock, stock and barrel. The world has moved on. London has moved on with it and has stayed as competitive as it can be in the trade and investment environment.
But Brexit has created a surge of uncertainty about London's stability and reputation as a city at the heart of the international monetary system.
The city skyline is constantly developing. It says London's open for business,
But some firms are treading water, waiting for that detail on the European divorce, which will be crucial to London's standing as a global financial centre.
US has slammed Turkey's ground and air offensive in northeastern Syria, calling it a very big mistake. American diplomats say the military maneuver could have significant consequences on the security situation in the region and beyond. European officials and members of the United Nations Security Council sounded the same warning as Turkish tanks, artillery and warplanes pounded Kurdish positions on the Syrian side of the border for a second straight day on Thursday. Thousands of civilians were forced to flee. Turkey has told the United Nations its response would be proportionate, measured and responsible. But American officials warn that the consequences of the incursion are grave. Democrats and Republicans alike have criticized President Trump for basically giving Turkey what they call a green light to proceed with the military operation when he ordered U.S. special forces operating near the border to pull back. Turkey is targeting Syrian Kurdish fighters it believes to be terrorists, but most of the West considers them to be key partners in the fight against militants from the so-called Islamic State terror group.
Up next, sports. Nigerian teams dislodged from Lagos Open. Please stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow the story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sport, all four Nigerian players in the second round of the Lagos Open Tennis Championships are out of the competition. Nigeria's teenage sensation, Oyinlomo Quadri, lost to Indian 5th seed. Quadri, who was dominant, beating Patience Onebunwa in the first round, took the first 6-2. Nigeria's number 2 men's player, Joseph Ime, retired early in a second round tie against Zimbabwe's Takanyi Garaganga. Nigeria's amputee football team defeated Tanzania 3-2 on Thursday to qualify for the final of the ongoing African Amputee Football Nations Cup in Angola. The team qualified for the semi-finals with 10 points from 4 matches. The technical director, Pius Asaba, lamented that they were not getting support from the government. President of the Nigeria Amputee Football Federation, Suleiman Isha, also revealed the 15-man team went to Angola through air tickets, jerseys, tracksuits, boots and other vital items procured on credits. That is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a great weekend.